If you act like a dummy on purpose, if you act like the simpleton, if you act like the person that's naive and that doesn't understand stuff, you'll immediately trigger in your prospect's brain this thing called a rescue. And they'll come to your rescue and they will share whatever it is. And so I just wanted to kind of go through this with you because I feel like this is going to be pretty valuable for anybody that's watching. We're going to talk about how to build relationships and achieve your goals through direct messages today. As you guys know, obviously FlowChat is the facilitator for mastering the DMs and winning, and we're continuing to grow and scale and kick ass. And here's the big secret. Start at the end and go backwards. It's pretty simple, right? What do I mean by that? Well, we look at like what the thing is that you're trying to get at the end, and then we reverse engineer what the process in the system needs to look like in order to achieve that thing. And we first lay down something that's very simple. The more simple, the better. As you can ask Jackson, the simplest things sell the most every single time. So we just want to keep it very simple and as little friction as possible. So the first question is, what is your goal? I love this little goat just jumping right up onto that's a pretty good goal. But is your goal to book calls? Maybe that's a good goal. Is your goal to get direct sales? Are you trying to sell all the way through chat from start to finish? Just had a client that came in that's selling an $8,000 thing through chat with no phone call. They've been doing it for a little while. They have a lot of opportunity. And so they said, Sean, how do we put this into a FlowChat? We built it, and now they're continuing to crush it, selling an $8,000 offer through chat with no call. Yes, it's possible. Okay. So we can probably cover that pipeline another day, which is good. Are you trying to get a registration? Like, what is the goal for your one pipeline? And keep it very simple. One pipeline, one result. That's what we should start with. Are you trying to get downloads on a YouTube? Are you trying to get downloads on a podcast? Are you trying to do something like that? So first of all, just define and establish your goal. And then let's talk about your audience for a second. We've been covering this for a little while. Think about your audience. The best way to do this is to think about, I like to start with job title because that's really easy. And then we go into what are their interests? What are the things that they absorb? And so you want to, when you're looking at your audience, I think there's a lot of ways to do this. You know, finding your client avatar or doing whatever they call it is just sit in who your best prospects' shoes are for a minute. Walk in their moccasins. Feel what they feel. What are they liking? What are they interested in? What are the things that they're very focused on for their business, right? And if you can identify those things before you start writing any copy or anything else like this, it'll give you a lot of ass-kicking material later so you can drop in. What's their communication style? Are they, you know, do they have a personality style? Do they have a modality that they use specifically one way or another, right? Do they like short and direct? Do they like a little bit more? Do they need detail, right? We can always decide who the best person is. For example, if you're selling to like a CTO, if you're selling services to a CTO, you probably want to have a little more data and facts in your messaging. And if knowing that going into this game plan, it's going to help you when you actually come to do some messaging, right? So that's something just to think about, right? Next thing here is, what is their level of awareness? We just went through Eugene Schwartz's level of awareness. This is going to help you tremendously because the most important message you can send in the DMs is your first message. Okay. So just keeping those things. Next, we want to talk about the convo of the framework. So we decide the goal, we look at the audience, and then we look at the framework. How many touch points, the minimum amount of touch points can we put into this flow in our imagination? If we could do it in 3 touch points, if we could do it in 2 touch points, do we need 5? Do we need 10? Do we need 13? What's the number that you believe is the right amount to end up closing a deal or doing the thing or getting the result, right? How much friction do you need? Do you need to put in a lead magnet? Do you need to put in a video? Do you need to put in all these other things? So we think about this first, really valuable. What kind of style do we need to drop it in? Does it need to be a humorous style? Does it need to be a direct fact style? Does it need to be that kind of a style? And then now, once we have those 3 things done, and we already know those 3 things, right? All we do is this. Here's an example, booking calls. Maybe that's your goal. Secondly, what's our audience? We're looking for solution aware business owners. So you see how I have my awareness level, which means if they're solution aware, they've probably tried other solutions and they're a business owner. That's a really good target. And they're wanting blank, right? They're wanting more sales. They're wanting this. They're wanting a system to help sell roofing. They'll have, like, whatever the thing is, that's an easy way to do it. And the last thing we need to do is design the action flow steps. Okay, so it goes goal, audience, style, and then the steps. And that's it. And you can do this in 10 minutes on a piece of paper. It's really simple. Think through what are the steps that you would need in a DM conversation to get there. In this example, what I'm going to do is booking calls to solution-aware business owners. So you can see exactly how I'm doing it. I believe if I were to build this from scratch, these are the steps. I need to engage with them. Once I've engaged with them, I'm going to transition them a little bit into a business conversation and open this window to do this thing called an invite. Once I've dropped an invite, then I send a link because I don't need to enter any other things. I don't need to send them a video. I don't need to send them, documents. I can just invite them with a link. And then I share a clear future of exactly what the outcome is going to be at the end. So these are the steps that I personally think should be in this. This is, again, for us. You want to kind of copy the model, right? As Picasso says, good artists copy, great artists steal. Be the person who steals this information and uses it for yourself. Don't just copy it, right? Okay. Next, let's get into building the copy, because this is the more important part anyways. So if we have these 5 steps focused on what our pipeline is going to look like, what do we do when it comes to engagement? Well, here's the rules when you're engaging with somebody. Most important, your first message. You got to get it right. And it's going to change a lot, right? Why does it change a lot? Because sometimes the first time you write it, it's not going to be right. Sometimes it is going to be right. Sometimes it gets fatigued, right? In certain cases, if you're sending a tremendous amount of volume, your messaging can fatigue a little bit. And then people are like, oh, he sent me that message. He sent me that message. And then you have this where you have to go change it. That's why it's going to change often. And then don't ever pitch a sale from the first message. I can't stress this enough. We talk about it all the time. You've gotten a million of these messages where it's like, blah, 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 buy my stuff, blah, 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 buy my stuff. Here's a link, right? And that first message never usually ever works. So here's a first message that we've been using with a lot of success. And I'm going to break it down for you. There's a couple of parts in this message that are important. The first thing is, here's how I found you. Really? Why you? Why me? Why this? Why now? Right? It's still that same formula that we taught about 2 years ago, is that why you, why me, why this, why now? So this is how I found you, so they know where I'm coming from. It's not random. My team shared your profile to me, James. That's easy. That's simple. Next, we're going to say, here's a compliment. Statistically proven, if you start with a compliment, you will get the best results. We've tested this in hundreds of thousands of messages. So your first message should have some sort of a compliment. And then lastly is just a simple and engaging question that you can come out with a couple of different answers. If I were to ask you this question, what are the answers? Well, you could say yes, you could say no, or you could probably say, tell me more. There's 3 potential opportunities that will come off this first message to a prospect, right? And this will move us into the transition side of the conversation. So now we've dropped our first message. Here's the rules for transition. Number 1, don't bite the bait. If they say yes, don't bite the bait and drop the offer right away, okay? Slow down your messaging sequence and give them some space to where you really, truly know you got them hooked. Because if you go down the path of doing it first and foremost, and you try to be the first one to drop a link or an offer, people are going to be skittish and they're going to feel the sale coming, and that's where it gets salesy. Again, I go back to Jackson because he's so good at communication. One of the things I've seen him do over and over and over is just push other people up and then confirm that things are great. And then he goes, hey, let me get you on my podcast. And it works 100% of the time. That's why he had 13 calls booked this past week. Congratulations, Jackson and Jaime. You guys are awesome. All right. Secondly,
one day.
There you go. In one day. It's incredible, right? So what I would suggest, instead of biting the bait on the first time, like I just mentioned, ask 2 or 3 different probing questions to lock it in, right? And then again, don't pitch in this part of the conversation. If you pitch too early, you're going to get a home run hit off you and you'll never hear it again, right? So never a good idea. One easy concept that I can share is the dummy curve. Now, I showed you guys the dummy curve before. I can do it again. In fact, I want to do a full session on it. I have a YouTube video out on it. But if you act like a dummy on purpose, if you act like the simpleton, if you act like the person that's naive and that doesn't understand stuff, you'll immediately trigger in your prospect's brain this thing called a rescue. And they'll come to your rescue and they will share whatever it is. Somebody says to you something like, yeah, well, tell me more, and be like, oh, why would you even need to see more? Your business looks like it's crushing it. And then all of a sudden they're going to come back and say, oh, let me help you because you don't understand my situation. And now I've started asking those probing questions and I haven't pitched, right? So here's a couple of examples. Somebody comes from that first message that I shared and they say, yes, like Isaac said, absolutely. We could say, great, tell me a little bit about how you're currently finding new opportunity and building relationships now. right? And then now that's my first probing question in the transition phase. He's going to come back and he say one thing or another, and then we can play off that, maybe one or two more questions, and see if we can get an open window to invite him to check out our stuff. Somebody could say no. Steve says, hi, Sean, I don't have a business to grow. Sounds like I might not be the right target. So you could come back and say something like, no worries. Thanks for the transparency. And I appreciate the connection. My network's deep. Let me know if there's anyone I know that you would want to meet. Cool. We can just stay connected here and chat. And then you move on to the next one, right? And if he responds and you might find a connection or a referral from him, that's awesome, right? But he's not a fit. So no's not a fit, but at least give him some courtesy. Or the third thing they can do, remember I said they say yes, they can say no, or they say tell me more. Margot says, thanks, Sean. Exactly. How do you define scaled relationship building? I asked a question that's a little bit ambiguous from some people, but some people get it. Some people don't know it. You say no, but it's to be like, hey, we built a message management system that's extremely robust based on what you're building. I think it might be useful. Before I invite you to see it, tell me how you're building relationships to find new clients. You see, I did not pitch here. I just dangled a little carrot that says, I might have something that's awesome, but before I even talk about that, tell me about you. Right? Because everybody wants to talk about themselves. It's always the rule. So when you first get engagement, talk about them. And then what happens is the conversations will eventually reveal a window. Okay. After those 2 or 3 probing questions, Carolina says this, potentially, thanks for reaching out. I'll have a look at what you guys are doing. That is an open invitation to move into the invite stage of this particular flow, right? Response could be something like, sweet, up for watching a 5-minute video, or are you more like me and just prefer to hop on a call with somebody to get your questions answered right now, right? And now I'm giving somebody an answer, and either answer is the right choice for me, and that's great because they've actually now said, hey, yeah. And that moves us into the invite stage of this flow, okay? So now if we're going to book a call, here's the rules when it comes to inviting. Number 1, stay casual. Don't be forceful. Don't try to throw a bunch of sales jargon. Don't try to use big words. Keep it simple, right? That's the next one. And try to be as short as possible without saying too much, but saying enough. And what I mean by that is, here's an example. In my case, I can either send a video or I can send a call booking link. So the invite, you see there's no link in this. Circling back, I'm sure you had a chance to check out the video that I sent. It wouldn't make sense to set up a call to discuss whether or not this fits in your business growth plans for this year, would it, Myra? And now they're going to be like, huh, he didn't send me a link, but he sent me an invite. That's interesting. What does this do? It keeps rapport high and it keeps the engagement with the conversation moving forward, right? This is a conversation. It's not one-sided. We want to make sure that we do an invite very clearly. That's my invite. And again, here's one if no video was sent and somebody said they wanted to book a call. In this particular instance, I added a little bit more on top about what we do. Notice I never said my brand name. I never said exactly what it is, but I just did say it aligns with your business. I'd love to introduce it with you. Again, I can send you a video or let's just have a call. Are you up for it, right? So there's another example of how to do an invite, which is a little bit longer. And then once you've done the invite, people are going to say, sure, I'll take, I'll move forward. And so here's the rules when it comes to a call to action. Be direct. Provide a link. That's very simple, right? And request a response. That's it. So all you have to do is be direct, provide a link, and request a response. That's the CTA rules. Here's what it looks like. Video option. Perfect. Here's a relevant clip for you. Link. It's only 6 minutes at 2x speed. In fact, this case is only 3 minutes at 2x speed. Message is outdated. If it's a fit, this is my clear instructions on what to do next. And then lastly, I'm very, very clear saying, hey, if you don't do anything, I'm going to come back and chat with you in a couple of days. So now they have a very good idea of what the call to action is, what they need to do. And if they don't take action, they know I'm coming back anyways, right? So it's been established. And then here's another one, right? And then this guy said, hey, hit me back up in a week. And I said, Mike, circling back around as requested, time to set up a chat, link, let me know when you book. Yes. So I'm asking for him to respond and tell me after he's taken the action, because again, you want to keep the engagement going. You want to keep the rapport high, and it's helpful for him to say, yeah, I booked a call, right? And then what happens is we move to the last piece, which is the clear future. Clear futures. When I added a clear future into my sales conversations, my closes went up by 30-some%, like 32%, insane, right? Here's the rules. Confirm the booking. If you're doing a booking call, confirm the booking, explain the next step, and then encourage the relationship. Most people miss that last one. It's important to do this. Flattery goes a long way when you do it well. Here's an example. I saw your name in our calendar. I'm confirming what they just did, their action. I'll be starting a new chat with you, me, and our awesome team member so you can continue connecting, right? So now it's like, here's the exact clear future of what's going to happen. I'm starting a new chat with you, and that person is going to take over the chat and take over the call. And here's how I'm encouraging the relationship. You're in great hands and you're in the right place. It's very casual, it's simple, but people are feeling good when they get that message. And then you can see Dana says, sound great, right? Perfect. And from here, here's a couple of pro tips, and then we'll get into Q&A. First, like I mentioned, start from the end and go backwards. Find the least friction by starting with no friction. If you can book a call in a single message, try to do that. If that's what you think can happen, test that first. If you need 2 or 3 messages, test that first, right? And then add friction as necessary. Your audience will tell you how much friction is necessary. And know that anything, whether it be a funnel you're building, a website that you're making, email marketing that you're doing, DMs that you're running, it's always a work in progress. No different here. Be respectful and be yourself. If you try to be someone else, what happens is you now have presented a front of who you're really not. And then now you have to keep up that front for the rest of that relationship. Most smart people will say, oh, he's putting a front on, that's not really who he is. And then they get shaded out and they leave because you're not your real self. So it's important to always be yourself, right? Have fun. That's another major pro tip, guys. DMs should be fun. It shouldn't be a drag. It shouldn't be a mess. It should be light. It should be easy. It should be just a simple connection with people. And that's it. Go FlowChat. That's all I got for you today. I thought that was just kind of a wham bam like process of order. Hopefully that helps. Jackson says we've had 26 appointments booked since Sunday with new. Oh my gosh, our calendars are maxed out, or we'd be crushing it further. Would likely be closer to 50 if we had availability, and I even dropped the ball messaging. Yeah, that's amazing. Jackson, thank you for that. Appreciate you.